Eye contact. It's kind of funny when you think about it. It's this super powerful but totally unspoken language that we all use. It can be an invitation, it can feel like a challenge, or it can be this really deep connection. But it's so much more than just looking at someone, right? It's this complex dance, this constant back and forth. So let's dive into the incredible science behind why we look away, and the silent stories our eyes are telling all the time. I mean, of course you have. We all have. That moment you lock eyes with someone from across the room, or just that quiet, comforting gaze from a good friend. It's just a fundamental part of being human. In this explainer, we're going to decode that dance. We're going to break down the push and the pull of eye contact, from what's happening in our brains all the way up to our cultural rules. So what is actually going on inside our heads when our eyes meet? Because it's not just a feeling, it's a pretty powerful biological event. Okay, so get this. When we make eye contact, our brains create what scientists call a neural bridge. Our brain activity literally starts to sync up with the other person's. This is all thanks to our limbic mirror system, which is what helps us feel empathy and figure out what other people are thinking. Our blink rates can even start to align, creating this subtle shared rhythm. We are, in a very real way, getting on the exact same wavelength. And this connection is incredibly sensitive. Studies have shown our brains can actually tell the difference between a live person looking at us and a video of someone looking at us, even with a tiny delay. We might not notice it, but our brains do. That live connection just fires up all those pathways. And here's the key takeaway. Eye contact is a biological command that primes our brains to be fully present, right here and right now. But, connection is only half the story. If making eye contact is so powerful for connection, why isn't it always easy to just do it? Well, that's because every single interaction we have is also this delicate psychological balancing act. There's this idea called the Affiliative Conflict Theory that explains it perfectly. Just picture a set of scales. On one side, you've got our need for intimacy, to connect, to be close. And on the other side, you've got our need for autonomy, for our own personal space, our independence. Every social situation is us trying to find a comfortable equilibrium point between those two competing drives. And we're constantly tweaking our behavior to keep that balance, usually without even thinking about it. I mean, the classic example is an elevator, right? We're all forced into this tiny box with strangers. That's a huge spike on the intimacy side of the scale. So what do we all do instinctively? We look at our phones, the floor, the numbers, anywhere but at each other. We automatically decrease eye contact to get back to our psychological equilibrium. It's a perfect, everyday example of this whole thing in action. So we look away to manage social distance, that makes sense, but that's not the only reason. What about when you're in a perfectly comfortable conversation and you still find yourself breaking eye contact? What's going on then? It's a pretty common worry, isn't it? You're in the middle of explaining something important and the person you're talking to just looks up at the ceiling. And you might think, oh great, I've lost them. But the reality is often the complete opposite. It all comes down to something called cognitive load theory. It's basically a fancy way of saying our brains have limited bandwidth. They can only process so much information at once. And maintaining eye contact, processing a face, reading all those tiny social cues is actually a really data-heavy task for our brains. The harder we're thinking, the more we need to look away to free up some of those mental resources. See, a human face is what researchers call a high-load stimulus. It's just a ton of information to process. So trying to deal with all that facial data while also trying to solve a tough problem or remember a specific detail, it creates a bottleneck. Looking away is our brain's simple strategy to temporarily shut out that stream of face data. So next time you see it happen, remember, it's not a sign of disinterest, it's a sign of deep thought. Okay. So we've looked at the biology, the psychology, the cognition, but there's a final, really crucial layer we have to add. The rules of this dance are not universal. They're written by our culture and even by our unique neurology. For example, in many Western cultures, holding direct eye contact is seen as a good thing. It means you're being honest, you're confident, you're paying attention. But in many Eastern and Middle Eastern cultures, that exact same direct gaze, especially if it's toward an elder or someone in authority, can be seen as disrespectful or even as a challenge. The same action can have a completely different meaning depending on the cultural software you happen to be running. But the rules aren't just written by our culture. They're also written by our own personal hardware. It's not just about where you're from, it's also about how your individual brain is wired. So on the outside, someone with social anxiety and someone who is autistic might both avoid eye contact. The behavior might look similar, but the internal reasons, the why, are really distinct. For social anxiety, it can be a process of vigilance, a hyperscan for social threats, which can lead to locking on, and then feeling an overwhelming urge to flee that intense feeling. For autism, it's often more about avoiding that direct gaze from the start to prevent the painful sensory overload it can cause. And you can actually visualize that timing difference in the data. You see, the response for social anxiety often shows this really high, rapid initial eye contact. That's the locking on, and then a sharp drop. In contrast, the response for autism often shows a lower level of contact from the very beginning. Seeing it like this helps us move beyond just observing a behavior and toward a much more empathetic understanding of these really different internal experiences. So let's bring all these different threads together now and really see the full picture of this silent, powerful language. So what is the dance of the eyes? At the end of the day, it's a constant, subconscious act of managing everything. Our gaze is this incredible tool we use to seek out biological connection, to create social balance, to free up cognitive space so we can think, and to signal respect based on our cultural programming. These four powerful forces are at play in every single glance we share, and they're shaping our silent conversations every minute of the day. This isn't just about being a better communicator, it's about having a deeper literacy in human nature itself. So the next time you see someone look away while they're thinking, or you feel that urge yourself to break eye contact in a crowded space, you'll recognize the intricate, invisible steps that are happening behind that one silent move. To keep decoding the hidden languages of human behavior, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our explainers every week. Thanks for joining us.